He sent one final message, then vanished into the clouds, Vietnam, 1967. May 1967. The rain fell, like a whisper over the mountains of northern Vietnam, endless and heavy, as if the sky itself was mourning something not yet lost. Captain Mark Talbot, a quiet, composed reconnaissance pilot with calloused hands and tired eyes, was assigned a solo surveillance mission over one of the most dangerous sectors along the Laos border. He flew an OV-1 Mohawk, slow, reliable, and vulnerable, a plane meant for eyes, not firepower. As his aircraft rose into the mist and vanished into a wall of clouds, ground control tracked him for just under 12 minutes. Then came the static. Nothing unusual at first, until a final transmission came through, clear and unshaken. "Tell my daughter, I see the light." And then silence. No emergency call, no alarm, no wreckage. He simply vanished into the clouds like a man stepping off the edge of the world. They searched for days. Nothing. His family received the letter, missing in action. No closure, no grave, just the sentence that lives forever in the hearts of the forgotten. "We regret to inform you," but the story didn't end there. 35 years later, a strange signal was picked up during a routine training mission in the South China Sea. Radio operator heard a broken voice, faint, aged but unmistakable. "Tell my daughter, I still see the light." The signal cut off. No call sign, no origin. But the voice was his. The transmission shouldn't have existed. The frequency it came through hadn't been used in decades, and the call sign embedded in the carrier wave, barely audible, beneath layers of static, matched an aircraft lost. In 1967, military analysts dismissed it as interference, an echo of overlapping signals. But one man didn't. Lieutenant Commander Ray Fulton, a veteran communications officer with a reputation for chasing ghosts in the static, requested the original audio. He played it over and over again in his dim, silent office until he could recite every nuance, every breath. It wasn't just a voice, it was his voice, Talbot's. Cracked with time, weighted by something not even war could explain. Fulton dug into the archives, tracing mission reports, black box records, field notes, all of them incomplete. What he found was more unsettling than answers. Maps with coordinates redacted, reconnaissance photos labeled non-existent terrain, and flight logs that had been altered days after Talbot's disappearance. And then came the pattern. Over the last 3 decades, there had been 6 similar phantom transmissions, all on old military bands, all from aircraft long presumed gone, and every single one carried a fragment of the same message. "I see the light." Fulton brought it up the chain of command, but within 48 hours he was reassigned to a remote naval outpost in Alaska. No explanation, no discussion. Just gone, like Talbot. But before he left, he mailed a single cassette tape to Talbot's daughter, now a teacher living quietly in Wyoming. It arrived in a plain envelope. No return address, just 3 words written in black ink. "He's still out there." The tape sat on her kitchen table for 2 days before she found the courage to play it. Emily Talbot, now 47 years old, and a mother of 2, had long accepted the story. She was given as a child that her father was brave, that he never came home, and that some losses never find their way back. But the envelope changed everything. There was no letter inside, just the cassette, old and slightly warped, and those haunting words, "He's still out there." When she finally pressed play on the old tape recorder, the silence that followed was louder than the static. Then, beneath the hum, she heard a breath, then a voice, faint, familiar. "Tell my daughter, I still see the light." It wasn't a recording from her childhood, it was recent, different. The words were the same, but something in the tone chilled her to her core. There was pain in it, weariness, but also purpose. She reached out to the Air Force, to veteran archives, to anyone who might listen. Most dismissed her. A few were kind, but non-committal. Only one man, a retired radar analyst named Hal Drexler, agreed to meet. They spoke in a dusty diner off Highway 287. Hal, grizzled and hollow-eyed, slid a folder across the table, marked Training Debrief 2002. Inside were printouts of unexplained signal spikes in the South China. Sea and overlays of radar anomalies, each one echoing the path of Talbot's last known flight. One page was circled in red. It read, "Transient signal, relayed 3 times from unidentified airborne source. Voice match 92% Captain M. Talbot." Hal leaned forward and whispered, "I think he's caught between something. A loop, a place we weren't meant to reach. And every few years, he tries to get out." Emily didn't say a word, but her fingers clenched around the tape. She had always believed he was gone. But now she wasn't so sure. She didn't know what she was searching for, only that she had to find it. Emily took a leave of absence from her teaching job, packed a worn notebook, the cassette, and her father's flight photo into a duffel bag and flew to Vietnam. It had been decades since the war ended, but the jungle still held its secrets tightly. She stood at the edge of what used to be Khe Sanh Airfield, now little more than cracked asphalt and rusted fences, and closed her eyes, listening to the wind. It didn't speak, but it carried weight, like something had passed through and never left. She visited villages, talked to old men who remembered the planes that once haunted their skies. One man, blind in one eye, told her through a translator. The sky screamed that night. Then it was quiet, but the wind glowed. That night in her hotel room, she played the tape again. Only this time it didn't end the same way. A few seconds of silence followed the original message, and then something new. "Over the ridge, I see. Static swallowed the rest. But her heart raced. The signal was evolving, changing. The next day, she chartered a small Cessna and a local pilot willing to fly the same path her father once did. As they approached the mountainous ridge north of Quang Tri, the instruments began to glitch. Dials spinning, radios hissing. The pilot grew pale, said it wasn't normal. Emily gripped the edge of her seat as a dense fog rolled in, unnatural. Silver blue, rippling like water. For a moment, it felt as if the plane had stopped moving, suspended in place. And then just as quickly, it cleared. But Emily had seen it, just a flash. A silver aircraft drifting beneath the clouds. No markings, no contrails, just gliding. Like it was watching. The pilot said nothing. Emily looked at him, but he avoided her eyes. She whispered to herself, "Dad?" And for a second, just a second, she swore she heard a voice in her headset. "Emily!" The flight back was silent. The pilot avoided her gaze the entire time, landing the Cessna with the kind of urgency that suggested fear he couldn't name. Emily said nothing. She just held the cassette recorder tight in her lap, her heart still echoing the single word that had passed through the headset. Emily. Back in the hotel, she rewound the tape again, pressing play in the quiet dark. The original message came through, familiar now, almost soothing. "Tell my daughter, I still see the light." Then static. But this time, it didn't end there. As the tape hissed, a soft clicking began, like someone switching through channels, searching. Then, "Too close, too long, tell her." The voice cracked, weakened. "Not supposed to be here. The light. It's not the way out." Then silence again, just the low hum of the old cassette spinning in the dark. The next morning, she visited a small war museum outside Huo. Tucked in the back room was a faded map with flight paths from recon. Missions, one labeled T-67B, her father's. She stared at it for a long time, tracing the red line with her finger. And then she saw it, penciled lightly in the corner, almost erased with age. Echo pocket, transient radar. Distortion 567, she took a photo. That night, she sat on the roof of her hotel, staring into the clouds above the hills, feeling like something in the air was watching back. She didn't cry. Not anymore. She had come for answers, but now she understood. Some men don't die. They just get lost in places we're not meant to go, and some voices never stop trying to get home. When she returned to the U.S., she left the cassette in a sealed envelope with a note. In case it plays again. She never heard the voice after that. But sometimes, on stormy nights, when the wind howls just right through her window, she swears she hears the faint click of a radio and a whisper that still sees the light. Subscribe for more